Rwanda, a small East African nation that once faced one of the deadliest genocides in modern history, has transformed into a military powerhouse under President Paul Kagame. This includes spearheading peacekeeping missions across Central Africa to executing strategic military interventions in Mozambique. The army has also been accused of engaging in controversial covert operations in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, including alleged backing of the notorious M23 rebels. In this episode of African Biographics, we explore how Paul Kagame transformed Rwanda's military into one of the most influential on the continent, while also drawing criticism. To understand the evolution of Rwanda's modern military, one must first explore the country's history. After gaining independence, Rwanda fell under the rule of Gregoire Kayibanda, a staunch Hutu nationalist. However, in 1973, a power shift took place when Major General Juvenal Habyarimana staged a military coup, removing Kayibanda and establishing himself as Rwanda's leader. But beyond Rwanda's borders, a movement was brewing, one that would challenge Habyarimana's rule. Tutsi exiles and some Hutu opposition figures had begun organizing under the Rwandan Patriotic Front, the RPF, a political movement advocating for the right of return for Rwandan refugees. Its armed wing, the Rwandan Patriotic Army, the RPA, was composed mainly of Rwandan exiles in Uganda, many of whom had fought alongside Yoweri Museveni's National Resistance Army, the NRA. This was during Museveni's guerrilla war against Ugandan President Apollo Milton Obote in the 1980s. Their loyalty and combat skills earned them high-ranking positions within Museveni's army. Among these Rwandan officers, two figures stood out: Fred Rwigema and Paul Kagame. Both had fought beside Museveni from the early days of the NRA's insurgency, proving themselves as strategic and disciplined soldiers. As the political climate in Rwanda worsened in the late 1980s, Rwigema and Kagame secretly began mobilizing Rwandan exiles within the Ugandan army, preparing them for what would become the Rwandan Patriotic Army. Museveni's military philosophy deeply influenced the RPA's structure, discipline, and ethics. In the NRA, rank and promotion were strictly merit-based, and all soldiers, educated or uneducated, rich or poor, were held to the same high standards. This principle of discipline and accountability became the backbone of the RPA, distinguishing it from many other revolutionary armies in Africa. By October 1990, tensions in Rwanda had reached a boiling point. Fred Rwigema launched the RPA's first major offensive, leading an invasion from the north. Unfortunately, tragedy struck early. Rwigema was killed on the second day of the attack, leaving the movement leaderless and disoriented. It was at this juncture that Paul Kagame, who had been undergoing military training in the United States at the time, returned to take command of the RPA. Kagame's leadership in those crucial early months would define the RPA's future. He instilled a culture of strict discipline, collective responsibility, and military ethics, turning what had been a disorganized rebel force into a highly disciplined and effective army. As leader, Kagame implemented strict codes of conduct, ensuring harsh penalties for violations such as disobedience, theft, drinking on duty, or civilian abuse. Paul Kagame also ensured that both officers and ordinary soldiers were held to the same standards, reinforcing a military culture of accountability. In a 1996 interview, Kagame would explain that he emphasized developing leaders who would take responsibility indiscriminately, fostering collective decision-making within the RPF, government, and military. Paul Kagame and the RPF succeeded in bringing an end to the genocide and took control of the country. Now, recognizing that military victory alone would not guarantee national stability, the RPA swiftly implemented a military integration program in July of 1994. To consolidate control and prevent future conflicts, they initiated the integration of former Rwandan government forces, RGF soldiers who had not participated in the genocide. In late 1994, a re-education and training program was launched at the Gako Integration Center, south of Kigali. former RGF officers were paired with RPA counterparts, immersing them in the discipline, ethics, and leadership philosophy that had made the RPA so effective. These officers, many of whom had once fought against the RPF, found common ground in their shared language, history, and national identity. One ex-RGF officer noted how juvenile Habyarimana's regime had manipulated ethnic divisions for political gain, reducing soldiers to expendable tools in a power struggle. At its core, Kagame's integration program was about more than just military restructuring. It was a nation-building effort. The Rwandan Patriotic Army was to be a truly national army, open to any Rwandan willing to reject past divisions and embrace unity. Over time, more than 15,000 ex-RGF soldiers out of an estimated 40,000 were successfully integrated into the Rwandan Patriotic Army. The Rwandan Patriotic Army underwent 3 major demobilization phases, each crucial in shaping it into a modern and professional military. The first phase took place in the immediate aftermath of the 1994 genocide, involving the discharge of many of the 20,000 recruits who had joined the RPA during the conflict. Among them were genocide survivors, including child soldiers who had sought refuge within the RPA either for protection or as a means of avenging their families. Unlike the core RPA veterans who had been trained in Uganda and fought in the insurgency, these recruits often lacked discipline, military strategy, and battlefield experience. Observers noted that undisciplined elements, particularly those assigned to rear operations, were more susceptible to revenge killings and abuses. While many of these soldiers were later demobilized, the RPA quickly replenished its forces by integrating ex-Rwandan government forces soldiers and newly trained professional recruits, ensuring that troop strength remained steady during the fragile post-war period. The second phase of demobilization took place during the First Congo War of 1996 to 1997, a conflict in which Rwanda played a decisive role. Kigali viewed the war as an opportunity to eliminate the threat posed by Hutu extremist militias who had fled to eastern Zaire after the genocide. Rwandan elite forces, alongside Ugandan troops, formed the backbone of Laurent Kabila's military campaign, executing highly coordinated offensives that led to the swift defeat of Mobutu Sese Seko's government forces. The third and most significant demobilization phase followed the Lusaka Peace Agreement of 1999, which brought an end to the Second Congo War in July 2002. This process was managed by the Rwanda Demobilization and Reintegration Commission, a World Bank-funded initiative aimed at transforming former combatants into civilian life. Part of the demobilization focused on 2,600 child soldiers known as Kadogos who had been recruited during the conflicts. As Rwanda shifted from war to reconstruction, military leaders recognized the importance of transforming the RPA into a modern, professional army capable of safeguarding the nation's long-term stability. This vision culminated in June 2002 when the RPA was officially renamed the Rwanda Defense Force. To enhance its capabilities, Rwandan officers began attending some of the world's most prestigious military academies, including those in Kenya, South Africa, Europe, and the United States. By 2004, the RDF had established itself as one of Africa's most respected and effective armies. Under President Paul Kagame, Rwanda has actively positioned itself as a reliable security partner for global powers such as the United States and the European Union, at one point reinforcing its image as a stabilizing force on the African continent. The United States Africa Contingency Operations Training and Assistance Program recognized Rwanda as its top-performing partner among 17 African nations engaged in peacekeeping operations. By June 2024, Rwanda had deployed approximately 6,000 peacekeepers to United Nations missions, making it the fourth largest contributor globally. Rwanda was also a pioneer in African peacekeeping, becoming the first nation to deploy troops to Darfur in 2004, responding to the humanitarian crisis in Sudan. Unlike some contingents that struggled with logistical and command issues, Rwandan forces arrived well-trained, well-equipped, and highly disciplined, quickly earning a reputation for professionalism. Beyond United Nations peacekeeping missions, Rwanda has taken direct military action in African conflicts through bilateral agreements. In Mozambique, the Rwanda Defense Force deployed an elite 1,000-strong force to Cabo Delgado in 2021, successfully stabilizing the region from Islamist insurgents. Similarly, in the Central African Republic, Rwanda played a key role in fortifying the government against rebel attacks. In the past few years, Rwanda's deep involvement in international security missions has also attracted foreign investment and shielded the government from external political pressure. In November 2024, the European Union approved €20 million to assist Rwanda's deployment in Mozambique, covering non-lethal equipment and airlift expenses. However, this and other funding has not been without controversy as concerns persist over Rwanda's alleged backing of the M23 rebel group in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. President Paul Kagame and the Rwandan army have been criticized because of the clear disconnect that often exists between Rwanda's diplomatic rhetoric and the actions of the RDF on the ground. Nowhere is this contradiction more pronounced than in its involvement in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Since 1996, Rwanda has intervened twice in the DRC, justifying its actions as defensive measures against Hutu extremist militias that fled Rwanda after the 1994 genocide. Kigali has consistently framed these operations as efforts to protect its borders and prevent a resurgence of genocidal forces. But Rwanda's repeated military presence in the DRC has oftentimes fueled allegations of human rights abuses, war crimes, illegal resource exploitation, and backing of Congolese rebel groups, all of which have significantly tarnished its international reputation. The Congolese government and international observers have particularly condemned Rwanda's alleged support for the M23 rebel group, which has been at the heart of renewed conflict in eastern Congo. Well-equipped, highly trained and highly organized, M23 has long been suspected of receiving military and logistical support from Rwanda, an allegation Kigali has steadfastly denied. After years of dormancy, M23 re-emerged in 2021, launching a series of offensives, seizing key towns and displacing thousands and thousands of civilians. A 2022 United Nations group of experts report found credible evidence that Rwandan troops had fought alongside M23 rebels. Additional reports, supported by photographic and intelligence findings, suggest that Rwanda has supplied M23 with logistics and reinforcements, while Rwandan soldiers have directly engaged in combat inside Congolese territory. All of these revelations have triggered international concern, leading to calls for accountability over Rwanda's role in the ongoing conflict in the Congo. To learn more about the origins of the notorious M23 rebels who are wreaking havoc in the Congo, you can watch the video that I've linked in the description box down below. Thank you all for tuning in. This has been Tatenda for African Biographics. Until next time, cheers. Have a good one.